It's my great pleasure to welcome you to this event tonight, entitled Pandemics and Epidemics, Preparing for the Ultimate Travel Bug. This is a World Science Festival Brisbane 2019 signature event presented in partnership with my university, Griffith University. The World Science Festival Brisbane is a rigorously researched suite of programs, and it enjoys the input and assistance of many organisations and individuals. Our moderator this evening is the multi-award-winning producer, broadcaster, and investigative journalist, Dr. Norman Swan. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the show.
Thank you. Whenever we change the way we live, new diseases arise. We're going to scare you stupid tonight, and justifiably so. Sometimes they're entirely new diseases out of nowhere. Sometimes they're old diseases that have come back, emergent and re-emergent diseases.
TB is an endemic disease like malaria in that there's a lot of it around, and it tends to remain at high levels for long periods of time.
We should just define the term endemic so people understand, because it trips off the tongue. But what do we mean when we say endemic?
So an endemic disease is a disease that is present at high levels at a fairly constant rate. If there are changes, it's over years or decades, not months or weeks. Whereas an epidemic disease rises really rapidly over time, usually days to weeks. And the difference is in epidemic diseases, they require surge capacity. So you need extra hospital beds. All of a sudden they have economic impacts like we saw in SARS. Yeah. So an endemic disease has a different disease control challenge to an epidemic disease.
But you can have an epidemic outbreak of an endemic disease. So you can have a sudden resurgence due to an environmental change or something that means that you suddenly have epidemic conditions for something that was previously
such as
endemic.
Influenza.
Sorry?
Influenza would be an example of that.
Yes, or malaria also. You have epidemics of malaria in endemic settings.
We haven't had another outbreak of SARS since the original one, fortunately, but what we've discovered is, doing some work in China, is that small insect-eating bats called horseshoe bats carry the SARS virus naturally. And so how SARS emerged in the first place was that China has a very active wildlife trade that brings wildlife into markets, urban markets that are sold for food. And bats are among the animals that are eaten in China, or historically have been. And so it was an urban live animal market in Guangdong that included civets and bats and other animals brought in from the wild and intermingling that allowed this bat virus to make its way into people and civets. And initially civets, which are kind of weasel-like animals, were blamed as the source of SARS incorrectly. So there's a very public display of wiping out civets and exterminating them from markets. But we found that it was these bats that were carrying them normally. Now, what's interesting is there hasn't been another SARS case, but we've continued to do research looking at SARS viruses in bats in the wild in China. And we have found caves in southern China where horseshoe bats continue to carry the SARS virus and different genetic varieties of SARS-like viruses. And people hunt and eat those bats. So even today, there is the potential for SARS to reemerge, and we wouldn't know that if we hadn't looked in animals.
Thank you. Thank you, Norman. Go safely.